Videos like these are made possible by viewers like you, who support the channel through Patreon, channel memberships, and stream donations, as well as everyone who plays on my rebalance servers at badweaponrehab.tf, and they're also made possible by the sponsor of today's video. Biblically accurate Raid Shadow Legends!
Yes, I have returned, and I bring gifts to thee.
You mean you've brought more to the free-to-play fantasy world of Teleria that's captured the hearts of over 80 million players?
Yes, my child.
How could you possibly add more to a game with over 700 champions to choose from, and countless ways to customize them to your liking?
I was getting to that, would you let me?
Surely a game with so many stages, bosses, and weekly events must be bursting at the seams with content. How could you possibly add more to do?
Let me finish. Okay?
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's alright. There is now a new rarity of champions, with the all-new mythical champions. Not only are they even stronger than the legendary champions, but you may also use their metamorph ability to transform them into one of two different forms. Check it out, I can do it too. Pretty cool, right?
I have seen the light of God himself. Just like I do whenever I see my new mythical champions use their own metamorph abilities. It's like getting two champions for the price of one, and they add even more versatility to the game.
And speaking of versatility, even you may obtain a new champion, the legendary Sun Wukong, so long as you log in to Raid Shadow Legends between August 22nd and October 23rd. And that's not all. New players can get the epic champion Stag Knight, and a skin for him designed by the one and only JonTron. Oh, I love that guy.
All you have to do is use the promo code JTSKIN before October 7th, and if you click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen, you'll get a free starter pack with all of this in-game loot. Thanks for helping to spread the good word, biblically accurate Raid Shadow Legends.
Your time on this earthly plane is short, mortals. Spend it playing Raid Shadow Legends.
And now with that life-changing experience out of the way, let's get back to the video. Welcome to Bad Weapon Academy, where we take a look at the worst weapons video games have to offer, and I show you how to best utilize them. Okay, now when I say that, you kind of have to understand what kind of curve we're grading on here. Usually, it's one defined by the game the weapon is in, rather than how it stacks up compared to other video game weapons. Like, is the mobile turret really worse than the hot hand, or, I don't know, the wooden sword in Minecraft? No, of course not. In a vacuum, the mobile turret is far from a bad weapon mod, and it can do some serious work. In the context of Doom Eternal though, it's easy to find it a bit lacking compared to its contemporaries. Because it's not just the chain gun's other weapon mod that overshadows the mobile turret, there's a couple of dark horses in this race. So let's dissect the mobile turret chain gun in Doom Eternal. Compared to some of the more complex Doom Eternal weapon mods, the mobile turret is downright simple. Once you activate the mobile turret with your secondary fire, you'll increase both the damage of your individual bullets and the rate at which you fire them. Ordinarily, the chain gun will deal 20 damage per bullet, but the mobile turret will bump that up to 24 damage per bullet, so a flat 20% damage increase. And normally, the chain gun will consume its entire pool of 180 ammo in around 14 seconds, while with the mobile turret, it'll do the same in 11 seconds. So once again, an increase of about 20%. It's kind of difficult to gauge how much these kinds of numbers mean, so to put it into perspective, with the chain gun's base fire, it'll take around 25 bullets to bring a Kako Demon to glory kill range, and with the mobile turret, it'll take 21. That isn't really all that different. I mean, it's about accurate. That is roughly 20% less bullets to kill. But on a weapon where bullets are meant to be so disposable, nickel and diming yourself on how many bullets you're saving doesn't really seem all that necessary or beneficial. Now DPS on the other hand should still be significantly different thanks to the increased firing speed. And yeah, it's roughly a 40% increase in DPS. 2.5 seconds to kill that Kaiko demon with the chain gun base fire, and 1.5 seconds to kill it with mobile turret. That being said, all of that is in favor of saving, in the most ideal circumstances, 1 second. If you're really that anal about how fast you're killing demons, then going mobile turret isn't going to fix that. A ballista super shotgun combo does the same thing even faster, and gives you armor on top of that. Okay, what about something a bit tankier? How about a Tyrant? Takes about 10 seconds to kill that with the chain gun, and 6.5 seconds with the mobile turret. Not quite the expected 40% DPS increase, but still, it's doing as advertised, and at least it's saving you more time against a more threatening enemy. So overall, the mobile turret's design philosophy seems pretty simple. It's basically just a flat DPS upgrade in exchange for slightly faster ammo expenditure. Really, as far as base weapon mods go, this is so simple as to be kind of boring. It's literally just the chain gun base fire, but faster and punchier. Compare this to other weapon mods that completely overhaul the weapon you're using so much that it may as well be something entirely different. You don't use the combat shotgun for its base fire. You basically use it as a grenade launcher. Or for full auto if you feel like memeing around. Or hell, even weapon mods that encourage you to use the weapon's base fire, like Heat Blast and Micro Missiles, will still give you a pretty substantial bonus for doing so. But with the mobile turret, you're using the chain gun as the chain gun to make it do more chain gun. Now, a weapon mod being a bit dull doesn't necessarily qualify it for a bad weapon academy. That's not what we're here to discuss. This isn't boring Weapon Academy because that's stupid and makes no sense. The question is, does it stack up to the many other mods and weapons that are basically trying to do the same thing? Because there's plenty of stuff in Doom Eternal that takes a similar approach to the mobile turret. We talked about this in the last episode covering the microwave beam. It's the funny button mods. Or I guess the sustained fire mods, same difference really. There's a lot of options for this in the game, but most of them are outshined by either the mods of the weapon that uses them, or another weapon altogether. The first of these that you'll likely see in-game, unless you pick the full auto shotgun right from the start, is the heavy cannon's primary fire, and it's also undoubtedly the worst. Slow, unsatisfying, not particularly harmful. It's a far cry from its counterpart in Doom 2016, where even though it fell off hard in the later game, especially compared to that game's version of mobile turret, it shredded through early game fodder enemies with ease. Not to mention the sound design was just a lot punchier. Alright, I'm getting sidetracked. This function is pretty much entirely replaced by the micro missiles, and with those, you have a lot more going on as they'll home onto nearby enemies, as well as having explosive damage, and a delayed explosion which you can use to your advantage on enemies with shields like shotgunners, chain gunners, and even marauders by shooting at their feet as they walk forward, on top of just hurting way more and firing a lot faster than the primary fire. Micro missiles are actually one of the mobile turret's biggest contenders in terms of sustained fire damage, and for a lot of reasons. For starters, micro missiles are fast, by which I mean they're ready to go fast. Mobile turret has this little wind up that's by no means sluggish, but compared to the instantaneous ready to go nature of micro missiles, and pretty much everything else we'll be covering, it means you're just not going to be able to put out damage as quickly as you want to or need to. This has definitely screwed me over plenty of times, and you really need to account for this as you play by essentially pre-revving up. If you play a lot of heavy in TF2, you should have a lot of experience in this. Just take note that unless it's a fodder enemy, you won't be shredding through anything quite like you will as a heavy. The main drawback that this causes is that the mobile turret is essentially worthless for combos, except as a starter or finisher, because it's a commitment to use. Meanwhile, you can throw in a volley of micro missiles into just about any combo without any additional downtime, and while it's no precision bolt, it gets the job done just fine. Damage is another factor to consider when comparing the two weapons. Against fodder enemies, it's an interesting case because they're so vulnerable to the chain gun's base fire that going mobile turret at all against them is needless overkill. You save basically no time and only serve to waste ammo and screw yourself out of glory kills by doing so. Against a giant horde of fodder enemies, you're better off either gunning them down with the base fire or using just about anything else. Even the full auto shotgun has a completely outclassed there, since by the time that fight is over, you technically haven't spent a single shot. Micro missiles, due to being so fast to come out, end up feeling a lot more disposable and useful for short controlled bursts, and 2 or 3 missiles is enough to kill most fodder enemies, so it feels a lot better to use against them in a sort of quick switch drive-by. And the explosive damage, while not having a super huge radius, will still catch demons in a big crowd together, and that can actually save you ammo in the long run, despite the micro missiles consuming ammo a lot faster than the mobile turret. Same goes for the homing missile saving you ammo you otherwise would have missed against those smaller enemies. How about larger enemies? Well, mobile turret is in this weird, uncanny valley when it comes to damage output. It's too strong to be of any use against fodder enemies, it's not the fastest method against heavies, and against super heavies, it can still feel downright slow. It has its advantages there situationally, but we'll come back to that. Now, against heavies, from my experience in terms of time to kill, mobile turret and micro missiles seem downright evenly paced. Now, I personally consider that kind of a bad thing, since the chain gun is the last non-super weapon you get in the game compared to the micro missiles, which you can get in the first level. So waiting on something for that long, only for it to be on par with something you already have, is something of a letdown. Yes, I see you there, Unmaker, we'll get to you. But that's taken to an even bigger extreme when you consider that the micro missiles have not only a built-in damage buffer if you kill an enemy with the primary fire, which can absolutely shred through crowds of enemies, but it also has no damage resistance from bosses. Yeah, bosses like the Khan Maker and Icon of Sin have a built-in damage resistance to mobile turret, and a lot of other weapons and mods, but not micro missiles. Meaning you can gun down one of the little chainsaw food zombies in front of the Icon of Sin, and just kind of watch all of his health go down. It's actually absurd. And this goes for a few things in the game. Micro missiles are even really good for possessed enemies, especially when they're damage boosted. Mobile turret is like, yeah, I guess I'm hurting them. Yeah, I guess. So yeah, I don't know if this is a controversial take in the Doom Eternal community, but from my experience, in nearly every situation, mobile turret is a downgrade to micro missiles. The biggest situations you'll want to use mobile turret over micro missiles in is at very long range, since micro missiles will auto-detonate after a certain period of time, and if you're sticking with precision bolt 100% of the time on your heavy cannon, and just want some kind of automatic fire option for bullet weapons. So if you want micro missiles without a lot of the benefits of micro missiles, without needing to equip micro missiles, then this is the mod for you. Oh yeah, I guess on the subject of bosses, the mobile turret is also pretty good against the Dark Lord boss fight at the end of Tag 2. And the only downside is that you have to play the Dark Lord boss fight. Anyway, speaking of bullet weapons and having a much stronger mod option, it's finally time to talk about the plasma rifle. Yeah, we're not done with the other options yet. Okay, so full auto doesn't really have a leg in the sustained fire race, except in very specific situations, such as against those crowds of smaller enemies, or as a finisher on bigger ones. But it speaks of a pattern in those options that the plasma rifle, and especially the heat blast, excels at. Every other option besides mobile turret has some kind of bonus that incentivizes you to use it. Full auto gives you shotgun ammo back. We just went over the many benefits of micro missiles, including the damage buff. Firing the plasma rifle with the heat blast enabled gives you as many heat blasts to use as you want, and the Unmaker is also there. Firing something like the plasma rifle isn't intrinsically rewarding enough in its own right as the game progresses, and the game recognizes that, and so rewards you for using it by giving you heat blasts to use at your discretion. And these are extremely useful for not only putting more damage into demons at no additional ammo cost, and boosting up the power of your base fire even more with full powered blasts, but more importantly, with faltering. With nothing but the plasma rifle and a single heat blast charge, you can keep a tyrant in a semi-permanent stun lock state that is just downright amusing to watch. Look at the poor bastard, he can't do anything. This is almost sad to behold. Not to mention how useful Heat Blast is for crowd control, deleting shields, getting big bursts of armor after a flame belch. It's a very worthwhile bonus for simply using your plasma rifle as a weapon, which the game encourages you to do in multiple situations anyway by having certain enemies be weak to it, something Mobile Turret doesn't similarly offer. Mobile Turret seems to think that being Mobile Turret is intrinsically rewarding enough, and as such, there's no bonus to it. Now, am I saying that you should be able to boost the damage of Mobile Turret by killing an enemy with the base fire of the chain gun, or it should give ammo back on kill, or maybe it should have some kind of AoE effect if you fire it long enough? Fucking, maybe? Hell, maybe if you fire it long enough, the overheating barrels turn your rounds incendiary so you can get some armor while you fight. And this would give you armor without needing to use the super shotgun, and help you overcome another issue that Mobile Turret gives you, which is tunnel vision. Mobile Turret and the chain gun in general have a pretty tight spread that means whatever you focus on demands all of your attention. And when you're as liable to get swarmed as you are in Doom Eternal, that's very frequently a liability. It's hard to focus down a super heavy demon while a bunch of prowlers are teleporting to you to knock you around, or a cyber mancubus is shooting its toxic goo at you, and if a marauder is on the field at all, then just don't even bother revving up in the first place. Being mobile while you fire can help, but if you're using the meat hook to fly around and get out of the range of enemies, then all that means is you have to rev up again and again and again, which eats up your potential DPS when you could just be doing very simple, yet very effective combos. One of the general defenses I hear of weapons like the Mobile Turret or the micro missiles is that they're mainly there for console players who aren't going to be physically able to pull off all of those insane combos that PC players can with their custom weapon binds and all that jazz. And I totally sympathize with that. Playing FPS games on a controller sucks ass, and I don't know how people do it. And I imagine lower skill floor options that enable you to simply hold down the fire button are a welcome addition to those players. My issue comes from the fact that there's better options that do the same thing, and even console players with nothing but the weapon wheel can easily do a simple super shotgun ballista combo that will take down something like a mancubus and even a tyrant far quicker than gunning it down with your mobile turret will. And speaking of better options, it's about time we finally covered the Unmaker. Yeah, it's there. Okay, look, the Unmaker is a weapon that's going to be getting its own video at some point, so I'll be brief. It's basically just an objectively better close-range mobile turret, and that's both a good thing and a bad thing. I'll explain why it's a bad thing when its time comes, but in comparison to mobile turret itself, the Unmaker shreds through things like super heavies a lot faster. An ice bomb and a few shots of this thing will basically just melt your average archvile. The only downside is ammo availability. You can't just chainsaw a zombie and get some BFG ammo out of it because this isn't Doom 2016 anymore. Alright, enough stalling. It's time to address the elephant in the room. Mobile turret on its own being outclassed by many other weapon mods on other weapons is bad enough, but it also has to contend with its alternative chain gun weapon mod, the energy shield. Longtime viewers of this channel will know that if a certain weapon in an online game is overpowered, I generally dislike using it out of a sense of respect for the enemy player, since we're all just trying to have fun playing the game here, and I'd rather not use anything that shuts them down effortlessly because it makes me feel bad. In single player games where all you're fighting is AI who don't feel anything and have no rights, that usually doesn't apply. Usually. I seriously feel bad for the demons when I use Energy Shield. This thing is busted. It completely shuts out almost all surrounding damage, except for ground AoE damage like Cyber Mancubus goo, and you can use the shield itself as a weapon against basically everything, which keeps you safe, deals significant damage to the enemy, consistently falters them, and lets you fire the chain gun base fire all at the same time. And keep in mind, the base chain gun fire is really not all that much worse than mobile turret. So what exactly are you losing here? Trick question, basically nothing, because the shield bashes will help make up for any lost DPS with the mobile turret, not to mention launching the shield after all is said and done. Just compare and contrast the time to kill here. With mobile turret, all you save is a second and a half in the best of situations. And remember, with energy shield, you don't need to worry about tunnel vision until the shield is gone. And even when it is gone, It recharges so fast that you can get right back to work bullying the shit out of marauders and bonking them in the face over and over again straight away. Energy Shield is quite possibly the single most busted weapon mod in the entire game, and lock-on rockets are in that running too. And so I avoid using it whenever I can. And this is what Mobile Turret has to compete with? It's utter insanity. So if you're anything like me and looking to push your limits as a big dick Ultra Nightmare playing Doom Eternal gamer, then ditching the Energy Shield may help dramatically improve your game. So that's one use for the Mobile Turret, having it equipped so you don't use Energy Shield as a crutch. But in terms of practical utility, what else do we have? Well, it's hard to think of something that another option doesn't do better, but one thing I've noticed is its utility against Barons of Hell specifically. Barons are big, fast, bulky, and hard-hitting gap closers that constantly keep you moving in an attempt to outrun them. But when under fire by a mobile turret, they get faltered fairly easily and consistently from a distance, and you can even interrupt their big jump slam attack with nothing but the mobile turret. And if you throw a grenade or two into the mix while you gun him down, the Baron basically can't do anything about it as he's shredded to pieces. This is actually a decently efficient means of dealing with a Baron, and more importantly, it's easy and safe. Barons kind of fall into the Tyrant category of an enemy, where you just kind of have to keep shooting at it until it dies. There's no Ice Bomb, Double Blood Punch, Lock-on Rocket, No Thoughts, Head Empty meta combo like there is for Doom Hunters. You've got to wear that bastard down. But Mobile Turret makes this process fairly simple. They can still break out of the falter cycle, so you need to be on your toes, but generally speaking, this is the best use I've found to get out of the Mobile Turret. And it's actually something that Mobile Turret has over Micro Missiles, since despite doing similar damage, Micro Missiles won't falter Barons to the same degree. However, do note that this won't work on possessed Barons, or armored ones currently wearing their armor, so just keep that in mind. Also, the same thing doesn't really apply to any other super heavies. Tyrants don't get faltered as much, Doom Hunters have their own combo that works just fine for them, and their sled gets melted by micro missiles. Give me a fucking break with the Marauders. Archviles will teleport around and screw you over in that regard, and you can't even headshot Blood Makers with this thing, even though you can headshot the Maker drones? What the fuck? Oh, but you can use it to break an armored Baron's mace though, and start wailing on him with bullet damage, so that's nice at least. Although easily, the best part about Mobile Turret and the biggest reason to use it, is that if you kill a Hell Knight with it, for some reason, the ragdoll is liable to just zoom forward at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I have no idea why, but it's hilarious. And at the end of the day, the Mobile Turret is still pretty good for dealing damage. It's pretty much never going to be the best option for shooting something, unless maybe you run out of ammo for everything else, but it's very rarely going to be the worst. And as always seems to be the case, Horde mode comes in clutch with its liberal use of quad damage power-ups. The randomized weapon order really allows certain mods to shine, and when your goal is to gun down as many enemies as possible in a short time window with a hefty damage boost, Mobile Turret may just be the saving grace that earns you a high score. Could Mobile Turret be better? Yeah, for sure. A lot better if the competition is anything to go by. Could it be worse? Also yes. It sits right in the middle of the bell curve. The most average of average weapon mods. And if that's your kind of thing, then go out there and see if the demons can outsmart Bullet and tell them Fish sent you.